SCHD just announced its Q4 distribution as of today. That payout changes everything. In this video, I'm updating my own position to show exactly how the new dividend shifts my yield, total income, and long-term hold strategy. If you're holding SCHD or thinking about it, stick around. I'm loading up the spreadsheet to show you the real numbers behind the headlines. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Simply Money. Today we're looking at the SCHD Q4 distribution. For those who have been following the channel, you know that each quarter I do an update based on the SCHD holdings, where it's at, how it's performed, and we give an overview of its performance since I've held it in March of 2017. We're going to dive into the spreadsheet so you can see it. We'll give a real quick recap, look at the pros and cons of what's happened, and then we'll get into the Q4 distribution for 2025. Leave comments down below. If you already know what it is, are you happy with it? If not, are you planning on holding, selling? What are your plans with SCHD? If you haven't heard what the distribution is, hang on, I'll be sharing that here shortly. So just to recap, SCHD on March 1st, 2017, with split adjustment, we were at $15.10. Put in $200,000, that got us 13,245 shares. This was rolled over. People have said, how can you have that much in a Roth, buy that much at once? Because it was a rollover from some other stuff. That $200,000 went into SCHD. And this is what we're looking at, what has been happening. You see, each quarter I update it, how much the dividend was paying. As you can see, back then it was paying 10 cents. And for those who don't know, there was a stock split. This is adjusted to the split just to make it easier to follow along and not have to do the math of is that up or down from the prior quarter. We have that distribution here of 10 cents and 11 cents. That's what we're looking at there. You can see that each quarter I was getting about $1,400 in payment. And so I buy the share price here, $14, $15. I would buy 97, 96 more shares each quarter. And so we have our accumulation of shares going on. And here we can see the total value, what the portfolio, this position was valued at. It started at 200,000. You can see we went below that just briefly. And it has not seen that since. It has been a steady climb up with some dips here and there, but overall, we've done really well, and we'll look at that here in a minute, what the final outcome was. Over here, I show how much our annual dividend payment was. So if you add up these four payments, it was 44 cents, and our annual dividend growth, I didn't have any because that was our first year of holding it, and our annual dividend payment, the actual dollar amount was $6,000 that it paid us. And that was a yield on cost of about 3%. Now, as you go down each year, you can see that the increase in annual dividends went up to 48 cents almost there, 57 cents. You can see your dividend growth, some decent growth here, 7%, almost 20%, 17%. And this is where people were really falling in love with SCHD, seeing this 20% dividend growth and then 17% dividend growth, and seeing the share price going up as well. That's always really encouraging. You can see the impact it had. Annual dividend payment was giving me $8,000, then almost $10,000. The yield on cost got up to 5% here. I always like showing this here. We have the end of 2019. The dividend was 15 cents, so it had increased a nice amount there. Our dividend payment was up to $2,200, and the share price had gone up to $19.20. I want you to look right here. What was this here? March 2020. That was the COVID scare where the market crashed. So you can see we went down to almost where we were 3 years prior. It was a huge drop down. Now we're still ahead of about $23,000 because we have accumulated more shares. You can see here how many shares we're buying each quarter, 116, 140. So we had accumulated more shares against this price that was very close to what it was. Even with that huge dip, we were down to 222,000 here. So we're still up the $23,000, even in it's probably the worst it's been in those 8 years that we've held it, almost going on 9 years now. This was probably the worst time. And this would have been a great time if I had had another $200,000 to throw in there and jump on that. As you can see, by June, it had gone back up to 17, and by December, it had gained from where it had left off the prior December. So it had a quick recovery, even though this was very scary beyond just stocks. It was a very scary time in society as a whole, a lot of unknown, and you had this fear of the stock market and people's savings and everything, investments and retirement just tanking. And this is where you can't panic sell. This is where you have to know what you're in, why you're in it, and stay the course. Because if I'd bailed out and got scared and fearful, look where I was here. That's a $100,000 gain in that recovery. So where it got to its lowest here, as far as when we were recording it on March 30th, we were looking at $100,000 more within a year. Think about that. My portfolio grew 50% from this low, got us up to that 320. So that's a good lesson to see. That's why I do these charts for people to see and remember when you were fearful, remember when the market was down, when it was crashing. There's currently funds that maybe you're in and you're looking at. If you don't understand the fundamentals, you don't understand why you're in it, if you're not sure, what your goal is and why you're holding something, you will freak out when this happens. I never lost a second of sleep during this time frame because I knew what I was holding, and I knew I was holding it for long term. I knew I didn't have any plans to need this anytime soon, and it was still paying me if I needed to live on the dividends and use the dividends like I will be at some point. It was still paying out $2,000 a quarter, but I wasn't at a point where I was needing it and knew that, and I didn't panic. I got up to $320,000. And as we continue just holding this and reinvesting, you can see each quarter we're adding 100, 150 shares. We've just accumulated more and more shares as the share price has gone up and as the dividends have gone up, the dividend payment. You can see again over here, year over year, the annual growth. Another year here, 11%, almost 14%. Now 2023 was tough. It only increased 3.77%, but it still grew. And you have to look at the 5-year and 10-year average of how much is this dividend growth growing, and it's performing really well. And a lot of people are starting to get frustrated, feeling like SCHD is a bum ETF. My personal opinion, this isn't financial advice. This is for information and educational purposes only. You're going to need to make your own decisions. But in my opinion, SCHD is poised as interest rates begin to come down, as the Fed begins to bring that down, as other sectors are going to begin to feel some shifting going on. I believe SCHD is set up in a nice way with its current holdings that we're going to see it start recuperating some of those stale years that we've had. And that's part of the beauty of it. Yes, we didn't keep up with the tech boom that has gone on over the last couple of years, the AI run. And you look at the S&P 500, the return has been really good, but the bulk of that return has been because of this small group of funds, this small group of companies like Tesla, Nvidia, Amazon, Apple, your Mag 7. Those companies have really pulled the S&P up, and that's fine. We don't keep up with that with something like SCHD. If you want growth, get into QQQ or SCHG or the S&P 500, SPY or some VOO, something of that nature. But SCHD is a hedge against those downturns. It's a steady grower. It's not a phenomenal grower. It's a steady grower, and it hedges against downturns, and it protects your income. If you're an income investor and you're wanting a steady income with some increases, this makes a nice foundation for a portfolio. And that's my opinion for whatever it's worth. I hold SCHD as a foundational for my income portfolio. It will continue to increase. It continues to provide me with that security. Now, as we go down here to the end, I'm not going to show you quite yet, suspense, what December is, but you can see here our dividends were for 2025, 24, almost 25 cents, 26 cents, and 26 cents. Now, I know I just went through a whole spiel about holding SCHD and how I love it, and I do. And then you see this here, some big sells of 700, 5,240 shares here. A lot of selling went on right here. Part of that was rebalancing because SCHD has become such a large portion of my portfolio. And as I get closer to using my portfolio, my income portion, I wanted to balance that more. So I had to trim it a little bit. I had gotten, if you can look here, up to almost 18,000 shares. I had to trim the position slightly and put it in some of the other things I was looking at for the long term. And that's why you see those sells. It's not because I'm disappointed with it. It's not because I think it was horrible. And there may be a day where I look back and go, oh, I wish I sold that at all. But it's part of, I wanted to keep my portfolio in the balance that I'm looking for. As you can see, the year over year dividend was 75 cents, 85 cents, 88 cents, 99 cents. The dividend growth, you're looking at that 11%, 14%, the 3.7%, and then 12.23%. So it's done really well. And you can see how the annual payment, this is how much it's paid me each year. It's gone up here now all the way to almost $17,000. And my yield on cost is 8.38%. I'm actually on this $200,000 that I invested, I'm actually earning on my dividend, I'm getting paid an 8.38% dividend based on my cost. And that's where people have to understand, if you're an investor for long term, chasing high yield may sound great and you get that initial high income, but if it's not having increases, something like SCHD over long term can catch up to that. This is because it's growing that dividend year over year, especially if you're reinvesting those distributions. And for a while, that helps really build that yield on cost. That's where we ended the last update in September. I know I've thrown this in with some of my monthly entire income portfolio with my other holdings, but I haven't done just an SCHD update in about 3 months. So I wanted to get this out to you. I'm not sure when this will be actually published, so this may be backdated a little bit. I'm doing this on December 10th when they announce the dividend, and hopefully I'll get this out within the next day or two so you can see this. And some of this will be slightly different because of the time frame from when I record the video till when I post the video. Here we go. December dividend announced was 27.8 cents, so 0.278 cents, just shy of 28 cents. Not what a lot of people were hoping. Some people were hoping for 30 cents. That would have been nice. But it's still, year over year, was a 5.25% dividend growth this year. Yes, it's slightly down, but again, we're looking at averages of 5 years. Look at the last 4 years, 14%, 3.75%, 12.25%, and now 5.25%. So you average that out, it's still been a very healthy CAGR for that dividend year over year. And now we are down on our total annual because we have sold these basically 6,000 shares here. We're down a little bit on the actual total, but if you follow my channel, you can check those videos up here where I do my full income portfolio. You can see how it has exponentially grown as I've made some of the shift into the pre-retirement preparation portfolio. And again, that brings the yield on cost down slightly. But this is where we ended. We're at $322,000. Now, again, I'm using today's price to simulate reinvesting this. This may be slightly off from the actual 15th. Today, again, is the 10th. So I'm using today's date just to give this some funds. Unless this thing totally tanks or takes off, this is going to be pretty close. And I'll update it accurately once the dividend actually posts into the account. But this is just to show you today. I wanted to get this out to you. The balance now is at $322,000. And look at that, it's paying for the quarter $3,243. That's just over $1,000, almost $1,100 a month. Remember when we first started, it was paying $1,100 per quarter. So it has tripled the amount that it is paying, and that's after trimming this. You can see here, prior to the trimming of the portfolio, it was paying a nice healthy $4,500, $4,200. So it's really done well. The share price growth has been 81%. Not only has the share price increased 81%, the dividends have grown from the 10 cents up to 20, now 28 cents, 27 cents. We're getting the best of both worlds on this. Nothing phenomenal. This isn't an NVIDIA. This isn't some high-flying growth stock. This is a nice balanced portfolio of growth and dividend growth to help stabilize your income portfolio. What are your thoughts? Leave it down in the comments down below. Are you excited to see this dividend, or what are you expecting in 2026? Leave comments down below. What are you doing with SCHD? Buying, selling, abandoning it, never give a crap about it? What's your opinion? Everyone has different opinions. Some people get really serious on here. Look, I'm not here telling you should do this or you should do that. I appreciate the enthusiasm of a lot of the comments, but remember, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm sharing what I'm doing and why I've done it, and I have different reasons, and you have to understand your reasoning behind what you're doing, whatever that is. I do appreciate all the support. I appreciate the comments and all that you do to help support our channel, and we'll see you next time on Simply Money.